Well, the nation is reeling after what authorities are calling a terror attack in Colorado. One America's chief White House correspondent Daniel Baldwin is live from the North Lawn with more. So, Daniel, what are officials saying?
Well, President Trump has finally weighed in on the terror attack in Colorado, Alicia, writing, quote, "What happened in Colorado will not be tolerated anywhere in the United States." He wrote that the suspect, who's been charged with murder, assault, among other things, came in through Biden's, quote, "ridiculous open border policy, which has hurt our country so badly, he must go out under Trump policy." Obviously, the main suspect's name is Mohamed Sabry Soliman, and specifically officials have said that he is an Egyptian national who came into the country 2 years ago and overstayed his visa. And of course, he's been charged in the terror attack yesterday, which has resulted in 8 people being injured, 2 of whom had to be airlifted, according to authorities, to the burn unit. Specifically, he allegedly targeted a group of people in Boulder, Colorado, who had gathered for a weekly peaceful protest advocating for the release of Israeli hostages from Hamas. The specific group has been meeting every single week since October 15th of 2023. The FBI gave an update saying that the man allegedly yelled "Free Palestine" during the attack as well. Why don't we take a listen to what the FBI had to say?
This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell "Free Palestine" during the attack. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
Deputy White House Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller wrote on X following the attack, quote, "A terror attack was committed in Boulder, Colorado by an illegal alien. He was granted a tourist visa by the Biden administration, and then he illegally overstayed that visa. Suicidal migration must be fully reversed." This comes less than 2 weeks, Alicia, after that horrible incident here in D.C., where 2 Israeli embassy staffers were fatally shot outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in D.C. The suspect, who was arrested and charged with murder, allegedly told the police that, quote, "he did it for Palestine, he did it for Gaza," following his arrest. Obviously, a lot of concern for the Jewish community here in the United States and their safety following these 2 incidents. But of course, we'll keep you updated as more information comes out from officials.
Yeah, we have seen 2 horrific cases of anti-Semitic violence in our country in the last 2 weeks, and it is unacceptable to this president and this White House. And rest assured, to all Jewish Americans across our great country, this president has your back, and he's not going to allow anyone to take part in violent terrorism. It's acts of terrorism in our country. And that's what this case in Boulder, Colorado is being investigated as. Kudos to our FBI Director, Kash Patel, for immediately calling this a targeted terrorist attack. That's clearly what it was. But I'd also like to point out that this administration has done more than any administration to curb this violence and to curb illegal immigration. We secured our border in record time, but we're also tightening up our visa process and our legal immigration process. And we know that this individual, this terrorist, was allowed into this country by the previous administration, was foolishly given a tourism visa, and then was illegally allowed to stay. These individuals are going to be deported, and we're not going to tolerate such violence in our country.
Initial response by our officers, we were on scene very quickly. When we arrived, we encountered multiple victims that were injured with injuries consistent with burns and other injuries. While our officers and paramedics and fire department personnel got those victims quickly to the hospital, our officers were pointed out, a suspect was pointed out to our officers on the scene. Our officers immediately encountered that suspect who was taken into custody without incident. That suspect, who I'm not able to ID at this time, was taken to the hospital with some minor injuries as well. And there's a lot more we're investigating right now before I'm able to release information on that person. The scene itself is contained, but we have a large area here in downtown Boulder closed off right now. Businesses have been closed, and we have asked people to avoid the area. This area is not safe yet. We're dealing with a vehicle of interest. We're dealing with a large area that we are making sure it's safe before we allow people to come back into the scene. This was a beautiful Sunday afternoon in downtown Boulder on Pearl Street, and this act is unacceptable. So what I will tell you, on Pearl Street, it's a walking pedestrian mall downtown here. There was a lot of people out. Very beautiful day. There was a group of pro-Israel people that were there in a peaceful demonstration. I wouldn't even call it a protest. I believe that happens frequently down here. They were there in that area. We are looking and actively interviewing victims and witnesses to determine if that group was targeted or others, and we just don't have those answers yet. So I've been in contact with our local FBI multiple times. We are in contact with them here. We are not calling it a terror attack at this point. Again, it's way too early to speculate motive. I know there's a lot out there on social media, but I ask people just to give us a little bit of patience while we work through a really complex scene. A lot of witnesses were here. We've taken them to another location to debrief them and interview them. As we do that, I think the picture will become more clear. But it would be irresponsible for me to speculate on motive this early on. We're only a couple hours into this thing. All I know is it's an adult male. We're working to identify that person. We're working to figure out where they're from, and we're in contact with our federal partners as well as we figure that out. So our initial call, as I mentioned, was a report that someone was setting people on fire. That is fairly consistent with the injuries that we found on scene, but we're not 100% certain how that happened, and that's what we're doing to interview. There's a lot of witnesses that we're interviewing. I can confirm that Boulder Community Hospital received multiple patients, and some of those patients were transferred to other hospitals. Right now, we have detectives working to find out specifically the number. What I'm being told is there are a range of injuries from very serious to more minor. And again, I just am, my heart goes out to those victims, and we're keeping them in our thoughts, prayers, and minds as they recover.
It was very strange to just hear a crash on the ground of a bottle breaking, and then it sounded like a boom, and then people started yelling and screaming. But I saw fire, I saw people falling and screaming and crying and tripping, and I saw the attacker have a Molotov. He had 3 Molotov cocktails. One of them he threw inside of a group, and one lady lit on fire from head to toe. And then the other 4 people were also injured and in a fire, but not as bad as the first one. And then the attacker came out from the bushes and the trees the second time, and he threw another cocktail, and on the second one he lit himself on fire accidentally, and I imagine it's accidentally. He seemed to have a bulletproof vest on, or some kind of vest, and then a shirt underneath it. And after he lit himself on fire, he took off the vest and the shirt, and he was shirtless. But he still had his Molotov cocktails in his hand, ready to use them, like ready to throw them.
These like shoots of fire, linear, about 20 feet long, spears of fire, 2 of them at least, came across right into the group about 15 feet from me, because I sit there and watch them, but I try to listen also to what they're talking about, because I am concerned about the hostages. With a Free Palestine shirt, I don't want to hang around there after that. Yeah. I know that automatically, and I'm sure the JCC is going to be up in arms, and this is going to divide this community all the more. And it's all to all of our detriment, because it will not end pleasantly. This person that did this act, that's beyond words also, like potentially killing like this whole group of people. That's unconscionable that happened, and that anyone would be elevated to that level of despair that they would do that.
Looking for news that actually tells the truth, not just the headlines they want you to hear? Then it's time to sign up for OAN Live. It's your go-to source for unfiltered news, sharp debate, and 5 hard-hitting political talk shows, including my show, Real America with Dan Ball. You can watch live anytime, anywhere. No noise, no nonsense, just real reporting and bold conversations that matter to you and your family. You can sign up for OAN Live now to see the truth unfold, and you can catch Real America every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Just go to live.oann.com. Again, that's live.oann.com, and sign up today and start watching every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern.